Ford from SMB Nation with the weekly webinar. Huge crowd today, big topic, Office 365, Skype for Business. The headline pretty much says it all. A little bit of housekeeping. I'm coming to you from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado, where I'm at an education conference. I'm actually participating in the conference, so I'm going to make a couple comments now and then pop in about midpoint and see how Greg's doing with Jenny. You're in good hands with these experts. But I want to let you know that I'm double dipping today, so forgive me. On the housekeeping front, be sure to use your chat capability to ask your questions, and Jenny will ask those of Greg. And then a couple of events coming up. Always like to do an events calendar at the beginning, and possibly I'll have a chance at the end as well. Next week, we're in Los Angeles on the 9th for the Office Windows 10 pilot tour, followed by, in the month of June, we'll be in Austin, Texas, Fort Lauderdale, and Redmond, Washington. So we'll get you the follow-up link on the thank you email with the replay link of the webinar. Tomorrow, we have the Connected event, which is coming up in early August. So that's for people who can't travel to our Office 365 workshops and, quite frankly, Windows 10. The Connected event is a chance for you to interact online from a video feed with the topics being Azure, Windows 10, and Office 365. And then finally, well, not finally, but we have 2 Office 365 workshops coming up in the month of July. So I know that we'll be coming to Charlotte as one of them, and I will get you the information on that. And then we have our fall conference coming up in early October. A lot of excitement building for that. Definitely filling up the email box regarding the fall conference in Redmond, October 1 through 3. So not to sound like a Tonight Show host where I'm naming off all the cities where I'll be performing over the summer, but that's the basic housekeeping. What I want to do is a quick poll question before I turn it over to Greg and let him run with the show. So hang on, folks. Let me go back to the polling. Here we go. And the question is, what is your demographic? What is your demographic persona? I'll leave this open for about a minute. If you could kindly go ahead and answer that. We're up to 44%, 53%, and climbing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're up to 66%. 2/3 of you have answered it. Give it just another minute as we have people about there. We crossed 80%. Thank you very much. 80% in 30 seconds. There'll be 2 more polling questions that we're going to ask a little bit later on. 85%, got 15 seconds left. And again, be sure to use the chat feature today to ask your questions. Very, very popular topic. 5 seconds left. And bingo, got to 86%. And I can read the results to you. 85% were MSPs, or partners or consultants. 7% are IT pros, so an in-house IT position, and 8% would be business. So let's go ahead and close the poll for now. And Greg, if you could take over the presenting screen, sir, again. There we go. Why don't you give it a quick test? Let's make sure you can go back and forth, Greg.
Yep.
Okay, great. So Greg and I have worked together certainly for over a year, or maybe it's been a couple of years, but Greg is the man. You are the man when it comes to Lync, now Skype for Business. And what I like about Office 365, what I like about our community is everybody's kind of got a niche. And so, you know, we know who to go to for small business server migrations. we know who to go to for migrations, Office 365, etc. So Greg, your day has arrived, sir. You've been very patient. as people discovered the telephony and unified communications function. Sir, I'm going to hand it off to you. Unfortunately, I'm involved in this education conference in Denver. I have to drop. Good luck, sir.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, we're going to hop right on in. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and the fact that I believe this stat was about 85% are MSPs, which is perfect. This topic is good for basically for users, in-house IT, as well as partners. But what you're going to see toward the end of this session, we're going to kind of divert off a little bit, not just talk about the product as is and how it's different than Lync. And how it's different than Skype, but we're going to talk a little bit about the businesses and the economies that are created around it. So that's where the 85% of you on the phone that are MSPs should certainly tune in. If you've tuned out at all during my presentation, you might want to tune back in a little bit about 3/4 of the way through. So with that said, the MSP market is absolutely a sweet spot right now, and the reason why Harry was kind enough to bring me in the loop here as well as the sessions coming up in Boston and Charlotte and then out in Redmond is because it's voice. It's not because of me, it's because it's voice. Voice itself is growing in popularity, and MSPs can finally play in that arena because voice is not what it used to be. It's actually now nothing more than an app. And it's being recognized, it's being deployed by companies of all sizes. So let me first, I really feel like I need to address this title. This title is Harry's title. He has a way with getting the shock factor, I mean, just like the tabloids in the grocery store. So I've even gotten email, I wouldn't call it hate mail, but I've gotten email and they say, Greg, what are you talking about? I thought you loved Lync, because I've been talking about Lync for a few years now. And truth be told, Lync as a product I do love. I thought it was a great product. And it's almost like the jilted lover, right? You love them, and then when they break up with you, you hated them. Actually, this is just merely a fact of it's just rebranding. And yeah, I think Lync did a great job. I think Skype for Business is going to continue in that fine tradition, the new girlfriend, if you will, but be that much better. So the first question people usually ask me is, or at the end they're going to say, well, why didn't you use the product, for this session? Well, so Lync itself doesn't have built into it it doesn't have a registration component. So that's why we're using a different product today to demonstrate this to using the Citrix product. In addition, this is going to allow us to really you can't really wander, right? You can't take the buttons and start going off course. So today is just about content, a very high level content. You're not going to get all the nuts and bolts of the product. It's going to give you some of the differences between where we were, where we are now, and as best I can tell, where we're going. Of course, that's always a bit of somewhat of a crystal ball. But after today, if anyone's interested in a deeper dive, that's when you just feel free to reach out to us, and I will provide you with some other resources where you can go, and LinkedIn and some of the other groups, just to get some more information. So here we go. Lync sucked. Well, not really, but here's better. Should you trust Skype for Business? So we're going to talk about it. So ta-da, this is essentially what the interface looks like, the buttons, the icons, and the value to users and partners, to the industry as a whole, is really being able to leverage that Lync feature set and the stability of Lync that's been enjoyed by mostly the larger enterprise to date. With a new design, right? The interface has much more of a Skype look and feel, which we're going to see today. And really, for everybody in the industry, for partners out there, this could be a very good thing for us. When this first came out, Harry said, well, what do you think of the fact that they're calling it Skype for Business? And at first, honestly, I didn't know what to think about it, so it took a little bit of time. But as this has kind of matured, the good news is it means that this product, this high-end collaboration tool that will support everything, audio, video, web conferencing, IM, presence, that has really gained an awareness and significant adoption at the larger enterprise level, is now going to be moving downstream to the SMB space in the mid-market, which is where many of the MSPs play. So for that, I feel as though this rebranding could be a very, very good thing for everybody's business. So, okay, everyone's talking about it. It's a really big topic. We've got quite a few people on the phone today. So why? Why do we care? What's the big deal? So here it is, guys, and I apologize. This is a little bit fuzzy, but I'm hoping we can at least get this is a Microsoft slide. Basically, here's your power couple, right? We had Lync married with Skype, and at the end of the day, we end up with some of the, on the Lync side, some impressive numbers are $1 billion in revenue. And interesting, we'll touch this in a second, 5 million enterprise voice seats. We'll talk about that in a real quick second. But what's really nice, why we in the Lync world, the former Lync world, are excited about this is the 320 million Skype users. So suddenly we're able to actually communicate not just with those that are in our own community, but we can now connect with all of these guys. And I'll show you how to do this in a little bit. And a lot of the functionality that we've used, that we got familiar with, the presence, which is huge as far as from a productivity tool. The IM, to be able to get really quick answers instead of having to go and get into an email battle back and forth. The ability to conference multiple parties, to video with multiple parties, all from a single interface. And now the beauty is it's going to have a familiar interface, but it's also going to interact with and play with the Office suite. So it's not a siloed solution anymore. So Skype itself, I viewed that as a siloed solution, just like WebEx, just like GoToMeeting. They're all great tools in their own right. But what they don't do, they don't play necessarily with, well, certainly with Office. And that's exactly what the value that we get from Skype for Business. Now, I'm going to go back for one real quick second here. Remember I mentioned this 5 million enterprise voice seats is interesting. Well, what that tells me for all of us in the industry is a huge opportunity. So if you have 5 million enterprise seats, and there is and we're going to talk about it in a second, Office 365, Skype for Business is a component that's a part of Office 365. If you're having, and we're going to get to this number, there's 1 billion seats out there right now, 1 billion Office 365 seats. And at the moment, roughly 5 million enterprise voice seats, that's 0.5%. So that just tells us that there's 99.5% of the market out there that could potentially be customers that we would be able to layer on voice, the application of voice into that environment, and it becomes number one, a more comprehensive solution for the customer, a truly unified communications solution for the customer, and an incremental revenue stream for those of us in the partner channel for the MSPs. So that power couple, what do they get us? So the offspring basically gives us a familiar interface of Skype. It gives us massive reach. So again, 300 million users out there on the Skype side that you can now invite into your Skype for Business sessions and connect with and put them in your contact list. Now, from the Lync's contribution to this power couple is the enterprise class service, security, stability. It's just it's viewed as a more professional quality and caliber service than Skype itself was. So that's, at the end of the day, this is really the winner that Skype for Business is going to present for both users and partners. So I touched on this a little bit. I didn't mean to, but I get excited by it. So Lync voice users, roughly 5 million to date. Skype users, over 300 million. And then Office 365. This is massive. This Office 365 growth is just off the charts. It is Microsoft's fastest growing commercial product in history. So what that means is it's really not just a product offering. I'm going to go back real quick. Office 365 is essentially a subscription-based service. Remember back in the day you would go to, I don't know, you'd go to BJ's even, I believe, that you could go and pick up Microsoft off the shelf and then take the disks home and load them on your machine. Well, those days are kind of numbered. 365 provides a subscription-based service, many different levels, many different layers. A portion of them can be voice-enabled. But what this is doing is saying this is really a whole microcosm. It's a whole industry that can be created, and there are, and we'll talk about this, different bolt-ons, if you will, or different services where partners are able to leverage. They might be professional services. They might be actual add-on services, voice being one of them, to increase their revenue, really leveraging that platform. Now, as far as the voice itself goes, remember, think back, a few minutes ago, that less than 0.5%, or about 0.5%, have actually deployed enterprise voice, and that number is going to get further diluted because surely at the moment the growth in Office 365 users over the growth of voice is going to outpace. So that 0.5% is going to even get further diluted. So that's just a huge opportunity. Now, what will that replace? Where does that fit in the market? Think of all of the hosted VoIP providers out there, the Ring Centrals of the world, the 8x8s out there. Huge potentials because we have the ability, using Office 365 and the voice that's built into it, to really displace those services. Now, that's the numbers. Let's talk about what it looks like, the interface. So I'm going to show you, just in case you forgot, if you've already upgraded to Skype for Business and you forget what the Lync interface looks like. On the left-hand side is the old, tried and true, very square looking Lync interface, and then over on the right-hand side is the little bit softer, a little bit more colorful, a little bit more user-friendly, I guess, a little more friendly look and feel, much more rounded. If you notice, everything's kind of circles versus squares. That's the Skype for Business interface. Overall, everything is pretty much in the same spot for the most part. Once you get into the meeting, you'll see some differences, but the client itself really takes very little getting used to. There's not much heartburn moving from one platform to the other for the user, which is a good thing. Now the meeting, let's see, what does the meeting look like? So the old one on the left-hand side is, again, very, very white, very blue, very, very, I guess I would even call it corporate. You'd have that corporate kind of a stiff, sterile kind of a feel to it. On the right is a little bit more friendly, a little bit more engaging, and you'll notice these emoticons we're going to talk about in a second. And then that's the other view. There's a couple of different views. There's a speaker view, there's a gallery view, so just so you can see what the different interfaces look like once you're in a meeting. One thing that's pretty interesting is look at the call controls. In the earlier model, in the Lync version, they were off on the left-hand side, and they were kind of obscure. Now in Skype, they are front and center, very colorful, and I'll tell you, I use it every day, and it's quite user-friendly. Emoticons. Now, love them or hate them, they're kind of one of those polarizing entities. People tend to fall on one side of the fence. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of emoticons. I think they definitely lend itself more to a personal, non-professional tool. However, they're here. From what I understand, they're here to stay, so we can just choose to peacefully coexist. Now, don't confuse that with this little the smiley face up at the top. That's actually a button where you can supply feedback. So if you've had any kind of experience, you can. That's not an emoticon. That's to provide feedback on the experience that you've had with the service. If you've had any troubles, if you want to report anything. This is a great enhancement that's come out recently, and I can tell you it has already saved my butt on several occasions. Think about the times when you're in a meeting and something comes up, an email comes in, and you know you have to address it right away. So you leave your meeting up and running in the background, and then you're in email, and then you suddenly get stuck in email that you are really caught off guard when somebody says your name, and you got to hurry and quickly find where your icon was to get back to that meeting. Well, the nice thing about Skype for Business, it actually has a call monitor. Love this. What will happen, no matter where you go, when you change your focus on your computer away from the call itself, it'll actually put this little tiny window that stays up the entire time, no matter where you go. So right from there, you can. The nicest thing is you can mute and unmute yourself right from that little window. And then, of course, when you're ready, if you want to get back to it, you just click on the icon on your desktop to take you back. But Call Monitor is a nice improvement, and I think you'll enjoy that one. Another one, file transfer. Now you can do the old-fashioned way if you like, where you click on the paper clip and it'll browse, and you can find the file and attach it that way. But what's really nice about the newest version, you can just drop and drag, or drag and drop. Just find your file, drag it right into the chat section, the conversation window. and automatically it will load, and then somebody at that very instant your recipient can go ahead and download it right from that from the chat window. So definitely a really nice productivity enhancement. So I mentioned before one of the main values, one of the most exciting things for us in the business world is the fact that Skype for Business now can interact with Skype. So everybody that's out there, the 300 million users, you're now able to access. It's very simple from your desktop, from your client. It's just simply clicking on the add users or add a person, and then you can connect. You'll see Skype for Business, where Skype is the other option. And then automatically the Skype directory, this one's highlighted, you can go and find anybody in Skype and add them to your contact list, and you can IM them instantly or call them however your session is or your client is configured. So access to Skype contacts, a big coup for everybody in the communication space. This is new, Rate My Call, and this will give you the ability to know, so the administrators have the ability to turn this on, and what it will do is it'll give the end user, and there are different tolerances that can be set. You can set it so every 10% of the calls after, then 1 in 10 calls will actually generate this little questionnaire, or you can do it for every call if you wanted to. Just a way for the administrator to keep tabs on the quality of the experience for their users. So that, in a nutshell, is what the new Skype for Business client looks like. What we're going to talk about now is kind of what's missing, and obviously if something's missing, that usually means for the 85% of us on the phone that are in the provider space, that's usually opportunity. So I'm not going to dig too deep into this because this is really a Skype for Business session, but there's a couple of things in here that I think make sense so you can understand when you're looking at Skype for Business, know what it can do and then what it can't do. So real high level, PSTN conferencing, meaning the ability to integrate, to have somebody just dial a phone number and get into a Skype meeting. That does not exist in native format, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like in a second. Enterprise voice, so using it, as we mentioned before, for your phone system. So right now, if you recall, we've got about 5 million people that have done that, but there's a billion 365 seats out there, so there's tons of opportunity for us in the space, and turning that into really the phone system, and then really the ultimate, which is a unified communications platform. And then there's this grab bag of different types of add-ons, and there are other companies out there that recognize the power and reach of 365. So they've identified that, and they're really creating hooks or connectors into 365 or into Skype for Business specifically. So they might be a phone system that will leverage, and it'll say, I want to tie to that client. We've looked at the Lync client or the Skype client. I want to tie to that. So when somebody makes a phone call, I want them to actually be able to initiate that call from my client, yet it'll leave that network, that environment, and hop onto my backbone, my PBX. Large webinars. This one we already talked about. One of the weaknesses is it didn't have the registration tool. So that's another opportunity to try to fill that void. Recording is okay. Of course, recording is built into to Skype for Business. As far as managing the recordings, it's a little bit cumbersome, a little bit less than ideal. And then quality monitoring. I mean, there are companies that have surfaced, kind of born in the cloud companies that really are specifically focusing on the call quality. And since everything's going over the internet, managing bandwidth and ensuring a healthy network at all times is paramount, especially when you're running voice on it. So there are companies that have recognized that and built business models around that. So the first one, the PSTN, it's really a hybrid conference. So what this means is, if you're going to have just a regular call, and what's native to Office 365, what's native to Skype for Business is voice over IP. So you're able to call at no cost. It's already built in. You're able to make a phone call. And I did leave, this is intentional, Lync, because This originally started out as a Lync type environment, and you'll notice these little things are a little bit old. I need to get, I couldn't find really good graphics that show the new. Skype for Business is that new. But let's just pretend these are gray, blue and gray with little circles instead of the old Lync client. Same headset though that the Plantronics headset does a great job. So in native form, it's just VoIP, right? What happens if you want somebody that's out? They're not near their computer and they can't connect. They want to dial in. Well, historically, what we would have is a PSTN bridge. Remember that, and everybody does that today. You probably did it today. You dialed a phone number and a passcode, and everybody's connected by phone. But what a hybrid bridge will do, it actually marries the two together. So those that are inside the organization, they're able to just click on the link, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second, to connect by VoIP. Those that are outside, and they may not have the client on their phone, or they don't have access to a computer, they just want the convenience of picking up their iPhone or their regular phone and calling into the bridge, they're able to do that. And that right there is certainly an incremental opportunity from a partner standpoint as far as a business model. Hybrid conferencing. So this is going to allow up to 150 lines. Now there's 3 different ways to do it. There's the native VoIP built in, toll, and toll-free access. It just depends on what the customers need. And there's a slew of international numbers, so it doesn't mean they're going to be limited to the states. Anywhere in the U.S. or in the world, there's a number, oftentimes a toll-free number that they can access to get into your Skype meeting. The actual credentials are really integrated right into the administrative portal, the Office 365 admin portal. That's done either by the user or by the admin who's managing the accounts. And then what will happen with that, it shows up right in the email. So here's an example. Just go and schedule a meeting just like you normally would in Outlook. You click the Skype meeting button, and what will pop up is the credentials to get in. Now, if we didn't have that bridge integrated, then it's simply going to be the Join Skype Meeting link, and that's how everybody gets into the voice over IP. But if we do have the bridge integrated, which I do on my account, this is mine, my personal one, then you're able to just dial this phone number. Anybody who gets this email will be able to dial the phone number and passcode and dial and access the audio portion. It should be noted that is the audio portion only, obviously, right? If they're not dialing in, if they're not accessing the meeting from the web, they're not going to see what's going on if the host is sharing their content. So next up, let's move it up a little bit further up the chain, enterprise voice. Now that's turning it into a phone system. So with that, that's really just giving dial tone. It's giving them a full PBX. They're able to use it as their phone service. And remember, we mentioned before, that's replacing maybe a Ring Central, or it's replacing a legacy phone system. Let's say they have equipment on premise and it's dated. I've spoken to several customers or prospective customers that they're ready for an upgrade. They're ready to, quote unquote, take their voice to the cloud. They're not sure how to do it. Well, this provides an additional opportunity to do that by adding voice right to their Office 365 or to a Skype for Business account. Now, if they are 365, yes.
Yeah, Greg, is now a good time to make some midpoint announcements, or do you want to finish up the slide?
Give me 1 second, Harry. Thanks.
Okay.
So the for the Office 365 license, I do want to make sure it's noted that in order to voice enable that, they would need to have Enterprise Class 3 or 4. All the other licenses would not support that because there's something that's called unified messaging that must be present in order to take advantage of that. So there is the dashboard. I'll show you real quick. You can see what the soft client looks like in Skype. It's built in to make a phone call. And that is a very good point, Harry, to go ahead and jump in with some comments to give me a break so I can grab a drink of water. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Great. Folks, if you joined the webinar late, this is our weekly webinar and part of an ongoing series with Office 365. And this time we're talking about Lync, and so appreciate your attendance. We have a huge crowd. A little bit of housekeeping news, the chat feature to ask your questions. Jenny's over in the control room. Hey, Jenny, are you there? Can we bring up poll question number 2, please? I could have you do that while I'm chit-chatting. That'd be great. And Greg, my screen's not refreshing. If you could let me know if we get poll question number 2 up, that'd be fantastic. While we're waiting for that, I do want to make mention that today the webinar and Greg's contribution is generously supported and underwritten by Ingram Micro. I want to direct your attention. I'm going to give you a follow-up link in the thank you email to an amazing white paper funded by Ingram Micro and Microsoft on the revenue trough surrounding cloud, and I would offer Ergo Office 365, one of the better papers I've seen in a long time. So we appreciate Ingram Micro's kind and generous support to make programs like this available to you on a weekly basis. With that said, Greg, do we have the poll up?
I'm actually not seeing it. Jenny, if you could tune in, if you could. I'm not seeing the poll itself.
Yeah, no problem.
It's up. It's up on my side, guys, and I've got the people are voting.
Jenny, yeah. Okay, great, folks. If you could continue to vote, Jenny, I'll need to have you read the results. I don't tell anyone, but I'm playing hooky and lecture. I sat in the back of the room and I snuck out a lecture. I'm at an educational conference in Denver, Colorado. I need to get back and lecture, but you know what, Greg? It's just like high school. It's just like high school. I sat in the back row and snuck out all the time.
And look where that got you, Harry.
Look where it got me. It trained me to be an entrepreneur. Let me tell you that, being an artful dodger and learning how to duck and dodge. Okay, Jenny, have we crossed over 80%?
We're pretty darn close. So let me read.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you read the results to us, and then we'll hand off to Greg. And folks, use the chat feature to ask your questions. Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, so it looks like the question was, how did you hear about Skype for Business webinar?
Yep.
And it was 77% through SMB Nation, 13% through 0365 Nation, 1 through Lync, and 9 through others.
Okay, and folks, the reason I asked that, there's a method to my madness, and it's not for today. It's not a conversation today, but it's a conversation for another webinar another day, is lead generation and lead scoring. So I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to explore that topic over the summer, but that's why I ask it. Greg, I'm going to hand the talking stick back to you, sir. Have a great day. I got to go to lecture.
Harry, thanks a lot.
All righty.
Okay, so we're going to get back to the add-on services. Make sure everybody, you're still seeing my slides, correct? You see the list of services down the left-hand side?
We do. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jenny. Okay, great. So, all right, so we're not going to really dig in very deep here, but just to get the message across that, again, Office 365 and Skype for Business really are more than just a communication tool. They're more than just a software package where you can go and have, get your Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. They really turn into a platform of different offerings that can be leveraged into a more full-featured, a comprehensive solution and holistic solution for the customer, as well as multiple lines of business and additional revenue streams, and just greater support that partners can provide to their customers. Some of those include a hosted VoIP connector. I touched on that a little bit. BroadSoft is a company out there, very, very popular in the hosted VoIP space, and there are connectors that have been built to be able to ride alongside the phone system is on BroadSoft. That's the switch. However, they're able to initiate calls from a Lync client. CRM connectors, customer relationship management. Salesforce is huge. Clio. There's all types of companies. Microsoft Dynamics that are connecting into. When you're looking at a phone system, obviously, especially in high-volume sales environments, being able to have that type of connector instead of having these siloed solutions where I've got to stop what I'm doing. Oh, now I'm going to go over to my CRM. To be able to tie them all together is very, very big business, and it's an exercise in productivity for customers. Network monitoring, I touched on that as well. When you're putting voice on your network, packet loss is it's just catastrophic. So we need to make sure that there are ways to monitor and keep the highest quality available. So there are companies that take Lync itself, or Skype for Business, I catch myself often, itself, and then layered on top a monitoring piece. So there's, again, that's a whole another business. Instead of commoditizing the service and making it the cheapest option, it's maybe making it a better option than taking the native feature set that's available from Microsoft. Larger webinars, if I believe we touched on this, this will actually scale. The webinar that's available, or the bridge within Lync, will scale to 250 users currently. Oftentimes, for something large, that would not suffice. And again, there's no registration part to that. So large webinars, there are companies out there that have developed hooks to be able to take a session that can be initiated within Lync and then leverage their technology and layer on top a registration tool, so it gives that full webinar experience leveraging the Skype for Business platform. And then there's always equipment. We didn't actually use video today on the GoToMeeting, but video is becoming increasingly popular for all different types of services. I mean, with bandwidth getting as cheap as it is, and the cameras getting as good as they are, even the ones that are integrated into your laptop, video is really becoming an accepted form of communication and a regular part of meetings. So as a result, there are video providers, manufacturers that are optimizing their equipment for Lync and Skype for Business. So they've identified that as an opportunity, and it's now part of their product lines, and it's just going to continue. So again, this is it's a rising tide. The fact that we're all recognizing that it's Microsoft's fastest growing product in history, as a result, there are definite business lines that are being created every day as a result. So I'm going to give you I mentioned some resources to take a look at. And so PartnerPoint, I'm not sure if you've heard of this one. I stumbled upon it myself. They are an independent. They are not a Microsoft community, but it's an independent community that's been created, and actually has just over 15,600 members right now. So there's a place you can go, and they actually have their own site. It's similar, if those of you, the Microsoft partners on the line, to Pinpoint. I would encourage, if you've not experienced it, go out and take a look, and you can even get yourself listed there if you'd like. But it's a place to have a discussion, a dialogue, and identify like-minded people in that community. Again, over 15,000 members there. Yammer, I'm sure everybody, all the Microsoft fellas and ladies on the phone are aware of Yammer, and there is an Office 365 partner community that consists of about 15,700 or so. So it's a great way to communicate, collaborate, and really just stay up on the latest. LinkedIn also has several communities out there, fairly large ones. One of them, I believe PartnerPoint even has a LinkedIn community as well, and I think it's about 15,000. So it's definitely a place where you'd want to be, hanging your hat. And then Office 365 Nation, Harry touched on that just a little bit, right? There's just a few people on the phone, a small percentage that came from there. Most came from SMB Nation, but they are, I'll call them sister organizations, Jenny, if that's accurate enough. And really targeting the Microsoft partners that are identifying the value of Office 365 and how to monetize that and really use that to add value to their customers and better serve their customers. And then finally, at the very bottom, there's my logo, and this is just my space. I've been focusing on Skype for Business. Started out as Lync, and just ways to really turn it into a full-blown communications platform, having come from the telephony side in my previous life. So that is it for the prepared portion of content, and you all are free to stick around and ask some questions, or if you need to get back to your day, I'm happy to give you a few minutes back in your day. With that, I'd like to open the floor to questions via the chat. And Jenny, if you wouldn't mind throwing the questions out at me one at a time, that would be wonderful.
Not a problem. Let me just get these questions together, and we will start here. You are saying enterprise have replaced their VoIP enterprise telephone systems, and it says who?
Who, as in which customers? Well, there is a stat, and unfortunately I can't share. I don't know the stat, but it is a significant portion of Fortune 100 companies that have actually deployed Lync, And as we mentioned, there were 5 million enterprise voice seats themselves that have leveraged that. As far as specific names of the big logos, I mean, I'm sure we could get that from Microsoft. And if you want to send me an email, here, let me just put my contact. There's my email. Feel free to shoot me an email there, and I can dig and I can ping some of my inside contacts at Microsoft, see if they'll share that with me. But a lot of that stuff they're skittish about sharing. It's a good question.
Fantastic. Can you ask if it will connect with Infusionsoft?
I don't believe Infusionsoft is yet a connector, but that is a good takeaway, Infusionsoft. I am well aware of it. I don't know that they've built a connector. Now, a lot of these connectors, if you recall, these are not native, right? These are add-ons, and there is a company that specifically was recently just purchased by Vonage. It's called the G Unify, and they are ones that have built a lot of the connectors that are out there. Specifically, they've had Google. They've connected BroadSoft applications or BroadSoft platforms to Google Apps and previously Lync. And there's other software. There's other packages like Salesforce and Clio. So I will find out if Infusionsoft is on the it's already been done or if it's on the docket. And if you'd like, you can feel free to, again, email me, and I can get that specifically out to you. We can include that response, I believe, Jenny, to everybody when we communicate with them. Can we do that once I get that answer?
Yes, we can. You sure
Perfect.
can.
Excellent, thanks.
Can Skype for Business replace an internal phone system like a Cisco UC520?
It can. It absolutely can, and that's intent. That's specifically what the enterprise voice is meant to do. It's meant to. Now, there's two ways you can go. You can go with on-premise servers, Skype servers, if you want, or you can go take it completely to the cloud using Office 365. But remember, the stipulation was you have to have Enterprise Class 3 or Enterprise Class 4 license. And usually, what's recommended is that you upgrade if you're on 3. Upgrading to 4 because ultimately it's cheaper just to add the voice, and it's all done on a subscription basis. So there's a monthly license that you're going to purchase for the voice that you're going to plug into the Office 365 license. But yes, it's intended to replace on-premise equipment if your equipment is dated or it's just not meeting your needs. That's exactly what we're saying is you're going to leverage your 365 license that you've already made, that purchase, and you're going to turn that into a phone system.
Fantastic. Can you identify any well-known CRM connectors?
Sure. So I think I did a few of them. So there are connectors out there to the CRMs themselves are Clio. Salesforce is the big one. Clio is one specifically designed for the legal industry. And there's another one. It's not even a connector, and I feel like I should mention this. Speaking of companies that really are born to bolt onto and to really augment Office 365, there's a company out of, I believe they're out of Seattle, called Attached Apps. I know Harry knows them quite well. Very impressive young company that has specifically built a CRM. It's not even a CRM. It's more of a contact manager. It's not a full relationship manager, but more of a contact manager to fully integrate with Office 365. So again, it's just one more option that's out there to try to leverage that platform. Now the other one, connector, Microsoft Dynamics, and if you're interested in a specific, and I would encourage you, whoever asked that question, if you're interested in digging in deeper, if they're for a company that builds the connectors, I'm happy to refer you on. Again, G Unify would be the place where I would go for that. But if you have specific questions, please shoot me an email, and I'm happy to follow up on that for you.
Is Skype for Business? Oh, sorry guys, my screen just moved.
The answer is yes. Next.
It didn't like that, and it just moved as I was in the middle of the question. What plugin vendor will enable voice UCs for for E3 or E4 0365?
Great question. Great question. It's one of my favorite questions. I discuss this pretty much every day. So now I'm going to give you a handful because I'm sure there are some that I don't know about, but the ones that I am intimately familiar with include there was a company out called Chinook out of the West Coast that was purchased by Arcadin. Arcadin has done a great job. I believe Arcadin is out of France. They're definitely a high-level company that very, very customer-centric, and they started out more in the collaboration space, conferencing, audio, video, web conferencing, and then really branched out into the unified communications with the purchase of Chinook. And so that's one on the list. Call Tower is another one. Great company here in the U.S., actually out of Utah, very competitively priced. So if a customer has E3 or E4, we're able to take augment that, add a monthly subscription to the voice, and then it'll give them the full unified communications experience. Beyond Call Tower, Arcadin, there are other solutions. Connect Solutions, right? Yeah, Connect Solution. I believe out of the UK. There are several resellers. There's another one actually from overseas called OBT, Oscar Boy, my gosh, I can't see, Tarantula, that have done the exact same thing. And I am probably drawing a blank on getting any others, but there's a handful right there. There's another one, a startup, Umojo, UMOJO, whom I've spoken with. That's at least a handful. So, moral of the story, you see the opportunity? If we're saying 0.5% have actually deployed enterprise voice, and there's only a handful that, there are more, but there's not many. It's not like any of the other spaces. It's not like hosted VoIP where everybody and their brother has stood up a hosted VoIP service. This is definitely on the front end of this, this frontier. Great question. I love that one. Thanks.
Do you have any visuals that show where the solution fits among all of the enterprise-level VoIP hosted or on-premise players out there?
Not in this presentation. So that to me sounds almost like, if I'm interpreting that correctly, kind of like the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Where does this solution fit? Which type of business does it best suit? So I can give you kind of the background. Historically, Lync, as I mentioned, has really been the highest adoption. Has been at the larger enterprise level, the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 level. The SMBs were slower to adopt. But as far as with the price structure, I mean, let me just give you some real rough, high-level numbers. Somebody's going to pay Microsoft $22 a month for an E4 license. We're able to, some of these providers will be able to, for as little as $20 a month, they'll be able to turn that into a hosted solution. So no longer, so you're looking at totally under $50. Now, $50 used to buy you a WebEx license. Now, $50 can get you a completely hosted unified communications platform. So that's certainly within reach of the smaller businesses. As far as the sweet spot, I think it's going to be a moving target and moving downstream versus where it used to be. I haven't seen anything specifically put out by, and I wouldn't trust my stats on that. I would go to the big boys. I would go to the Gartners or the Wayne houses to find out where they're projecting that the highest adoption rate is going to be. But from the partner perspective, basically any customer that you're speaking with, if they're an Office 365 customer, that should be guiding that conversation. That conversation should automatically go to, well, what are you doing for your voice? And it's going to open up different discussions. You know what? If they're happy with their voice the way it is, that's fine. What about just adding on a conference bridge, right? That's the lowest hanging fruit. It doesn't cost them anything to do it, to get the work done, to actually have to add the credentials for the phone access, and suddenly they have greater accessibility into their meeting. You as a partner have an incremental revenue stream that you didn't have previously, so, to give them a more holistic, a more comprehensive conferencing solution. So, boy, that was a long, and I know I didn't even answer the question because I don't have specifics as far as where the sweet spot is. It's so new, I think it may be hard for even a Gartner to predict where they're going to see the greatest adoption rate for Skype for Business and the voice, the voice services for Skype for Business.
Does a customer have to have Office 365 to use this solution?
No, very, very good question. So Skype for Business can be purchased as a standalone, and there are different levels. There's just a basic level where you would have the client with the ability to see presence and IM and even communicate by Skype to Skype calls. And that is generally ballpark-ish, $2, $3 a seat, something like that, really, really inexpensive. So that's easy to deploy company-wide. And think about the productivity you're going to get. If everybody in a company, let's say you have 300 people in a company, can all of a sudden now have a vision into if somebody across the country or across the world is available if they're online. Huge productivity there. And then if you want to move up a little bit further, you can get the Skype for Business enterprise model, which includes conferencing. So now you have multi-point, and that you're looking at ballpark, $10, $11 per license per seat on that. So these can actually be leveraged. Now, you don't have to have 365 as a whole, but if you do, the E3 or E4 will include that unified messaging component that will allow you to turn it into your phone system. So it does not need to be sold in conjunction with 365. However, since 365 is already being purchased, what better place to go to actually bolt it on?
Is there a way, or will there be, to buy a pool of minutes for Skype for a tenant that users have access to, so that all users have access to, rather than each person having to use their own pool of minutes?
Yeah, I have no idea. That's a great question from Microsoft, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there are a lot of questions right now about what Microsoft's plans are with voice, with telephony. I know they've dabbled in the past, and Harry and I have talked about this. I've spoken to other people at Microsoft, and just trying to get, I know voice itself, PSTN voice, is on the roadmap, and I know they've made some changes. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but there's actually, to do that, the hybrid bridge, there's only 3 providers historically, and they've just recently added AT&T. So to get that, there's just a handful of providers. So they're certainly starting to expand a little bit. What direction they take it in, I'm not quite sure. We do know that voice services, PSTN services, will be a part of what Microsoft is doing. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it themselves. They're probably doing it through strategic partners, but they're clearly paying attention to voice. Does that mean they're going to be able to pull minutes and deploy in that fashion? I honestly just don't know. But I could see why that would be of value to an enterprise for sure. Oh, real quick, sorry, Jenny. One thing to keep in mind, and we really didn't talk about this, but the voice itself, if they're using, the Skype to Skype, and even if we're doing the enterprise voice, and it is, a lot of these licenses will be unlimited. So depending on the license that's purchased, it could be unlimited. So the pooling of minutes really is not an issue. It doesn't matter if they're using this, the enterprise voice for E4. Depending on the package that they purchased, it may be a non-issue. So everybody could have unlimited minutes. Next.
Is Skype for Business a cross-platform solution? Is it available on Mac?
It is. It is. Now, I can tell you, I haven't seen Skype for Business on Mac, what the client looks like, but Lync, I saw that extensively, and it does look a little bit different, but the basic functionality is still there. So yeah, it's that will not be an issue. I mean, the goal of this is to be able to be any device, anytime. Good question.
Do you expect S4B to compete with Vonage for Business with fewer than 100 seats?
Well, Vonage is a really interesting play. So I think I mentioned Vonage did purchase G Unify, so it tells me that they're definitely NG Unify has as an inside track. They have, they build these connectors. Yes, I would say this is an unofficial, because I don't have any word from anybody official, but I would say they absolutely could be a viable player. I'm sorry, Microsoft could be a viable player in competing against a Vonage in this space. Now the question is, do they compete with them or do they work with them? I mean, I'm not quite sure how that's going to all play out. This is seriously the reason why everyone's talking about Skype for Business, because everyone has questions about Skype for Business. We're all trying to figure out how to deploy it, how to leverage it, and really what the power of it will be. So yeah, Microsoft is something everybody in the voice space, not just Vonage, Ring Central, Packet 8, everybody is watching, because you have to know what your it's funny, your competition isn't who you something other than what it used to be. It used to just be the other phone companies. Now it's Google. Now it's Microsoft. I think we're at the closing in on the top of the hour. How are we looking, Jenny?
We are. We have quite a few more questions, and so I might just end up sending those over to you, and we can address those individually, because we do have quite a few more questions, but we are coming to the end of the webinar here. So,
well, I'd be happy. If you could send me all the questions you have, I will address them all one at a time and make sure everybody's questions get answered.
Fantastic. I will be sure to send all those questions over so that we can get all those answered, and wanted to thank you for today's webinar, as well as everybody else for joining us today. And we will be sure to get all those questions answered, and then also be sure to send out the link for the recorded webinar in case anybody wants to view it again.
Great. Thanks, Jenny, very much. Appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.